Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special Women's Summit. We're going to be talking about moms today, and I just wanted to kind of get everybody in a room. This is one of our largest groups, so we want to make sure everybody gets introduced. So, starting with me, my name is Jessica. I am a lead compliance analyst, and I am also a women's advocate. I run a Sure the media is turned on. Yes, sure. There you go. I actually have a group called the Phoenix Amazon Tribe. We are 90 strong, ladies, and I actually do have a passion for women. I think not enough is said for them. So I am kind of their mouthpiece for all the things that make us women. I do actually have 3 kids. I have a 24-year-old son. I have a 18-year-old daughter, and I have a 16-year-old daughter. And that's me as a mom. How about you, Joy? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Joy Tones. I am a life and social worker, and I am a administrative director at a nonprofit. I have one child who is 43 years old.
Ooh, good for you. Look at she's emulating.
And I was not a teenage mother.
Good for you. So, I have 2 ladies sitting here together that I know really well. I actually work with them, and they are precious. So I want to give you a shout out to Lisa and Caitlin. Lisa, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, my name is Lisa. I am a supervisor. I have 2 sons, 18 and 16. And my first one is graduating in a couple weeks.
Yay! That's so exciting.
And I was not a teenage mom either.
She might have thought she was in here. But... So what about you, Caitlin?
So I'm Caitlin. I have 2 sons, David and Derek. My oldest is 3, and the youngest he's almost 18 months.
Oh, so you're going through it right now.
Yeah. Going through all the fun stuff and the teething.
Right. Oh, man, the teething. It doesn't get any better. They still teeth at 18. I just want to let you know that.
Great.
Oh, that's like their teething. I'm just saying. Terrible twos have nothing on terrible teens. I'm just saying. So our next guest is Miss Ashley. Why don't you tell us something about yourself?
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ashley. People call me Rosabelle. I am a quality engineer. I work in the aerospace industry. I have 1 son. He's 2.5.
Aww.
And being a parent.
Do you know
it's just
like
taking me to a whole new level.
Do you know that phrase alone, we all know what you mean.
Yes.
There is nothing like that. Nothing at all, especially when they're little like that and you love them, but they got a personality now.
Oh, yeah.
And a little piece of that is our person.
Yes, it is, unfortunately. Now we get to see what we were like.
Absolutely.
So my final guest is Ihala. And why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, my real name is Ebony, but people call me Ihala like that's my real name.
Well, I do because I know a lot of comedians don't like to talk about their government name.
And I have 2 children. I have a 25-year-old son. Well, I'm sorry, he's 26. I have a 26-year-old son. He's in a band called Decades.
Ooh.
He's a musician. And I have a 25-year-old daughter. And I'm a production supervisor at my job, and we make meal kits for the military.
Oh,
that's
so
really cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
So my son actually got back in October from doing, he served our country in Alaska for 3 years.
Wow.
And then he came back and decided to go to college. And I'm sitting back going, well, damn, I did something good. Jeez, they made it to college. Woo! So I do want to talk to you ladies today about before we get into the fun stuff, because I am so looking forward to our chat. I think it's going to be amazing. But I did want to kind of throw out some statistics for us. In America, 80% of parents are single parents. That's horrible.
Wow.
We did a horrible job and as a society in letting that number be like that. We are a broken society, and that's what that is. That is simply because we wanted something, we got it, we were done with it, and we parted ways, you know. So I think it's important for us to understand on a perspective that what we talk about today, as fun as it is, it wasn't at the time. And believe you me, we thought we were going to kill our children by our decisions. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt is all I'm saying. It's supposed to be fun. But really, in reality, about 45% of single parents receive support from their other half. I think that is absolutely horrible that not even 50%, not even 50% share in the responsibility of a child. That is absolutely unacceptable in my opinion. But I wanted to kind of break this down for you ladies a little bit. So this census that I read about was done in February of this year. And it said that out of 11,016,000 families that they censored, 80% were single mothers and 20% were single fathers. So when us women get on our pulpit, on our soapbox about why it's so hard, this is why, guys, is because 80% of us have to do this by ourselves, whereas 20% of men only have to do it by themselves. So that's really where the respect for single moms comes into play, because typically, in my experience, we didn't have choice. It was just the way that society works that puts the onus on the mother. But one of the things that I did read about, I found interesting, is that out of those single parents, 61% of those single parents were white, 31% were Black, 3% were Asian, and 5% were other nationalities. For single fathers, 73% of single fathers were white, 18% were Black, Asians were 3%, and 6% on other nationalities. So this is a good glimpse at what our struggles are, because we really got to stop seeing color with this stuff. It really is not what everybody thinks it is. Everybody's struggling. All races are struggling with our own kids, our own realities, and really bleeding that struggle into racism and, sexism is absolutely unacceptable, because everybody's struggling, I do want to go back to the child support question. It actually interested me because I am a victim of not having full support, and I haven't had full support since my divorce. So 8 years I've been only parent, not just a single parent. So that's been hard, but I found it interesting that custodial parents, if the mother is the custodial parent, they receive full support 46% of the time in this poll. Partial support, which is whenever they feel like giving you money, is about 24%, and 28% of single moms receive no support whatsoever. Now, on the flip side, the thing that interested me was the statistics for the fathers, though. The fathers were 43% of single fathers receive child support from the mother. 18% receive some, and a whopping 38% receive no support from their mother. So I also want to bring that into clear. It's not just about single moms. It's the accountability and reality that, yes, women have it hard, and throwing that single parenthood on top of us is even harder. But that does not mean we have the excuse to be hard on the single fathers, because they got it just as hard, if not swimming upstream, to get support from the mothers. So that was another thing. And finally, I wanted to kind of put it in perspective that single mother household statistics show that 22% of single mothers are living with their parents. In this world today, I don't know if y'all have seen it in your worlds, But in my world, I see a lot of younger generations staying with their parents until they can, because they want to finish high school, they want to finish college, and they want to still, they made a choice to be responsible with their decision to have a child. So in this day and age, we end up struggling because the cost of living is higher than the cost of, than the income. So imagine being 30 years old and having a baby and you ain't got nothing. Like, you got nothing. You got nowhere to go, nowhere to stay. You know, you're already humiliating yourself by staying with your parents. So I think it's important for us to acknowledge that single parents that have to live with their parents should also receive respect because of the fact that they are trying to do what's best for their kids. Things are just popping all over in here. So what I want to bring to all of that to ask you ladies, what are your thoughts? Were you surprised by the statistics, or was it kind of what you would expect?
As a social worker, I wasn't like totally surprised. Not totally.
Not totally surprised. How about you
Yeah.
ladies?
I know with my divorce, we agreed to no child support from either side because we do 50-50 custody.
That's amazing.
So when they're with me, I take care of them. When they're with him, he takes care of them. So,
I think I could handle that, you know?
yeah.
That would be all right. I wouldn't have to be so, I don't know, so aggressive with having that. And that relieves you of stress knowing that when they're with him,
Mhm.
you don't have to worry about your babies. And
Correct.
that's really nice. What
Yes.
about you, Kaylin?
It is surprising to me. I'm lucky enough to not have to do it on my own, but it is surprising to see how many women are doing it on their own, and even how many fathers are doing it on their own as well.
I agree.
I mean, it's very shocking.
It is.
80%. I mean, that's
I know
that's insane.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
I know in my
Yeah.
world I deal with a lot, that's the wrong word, but I interact with a lot of single moms. So that surprised me, but didn't surprise me,
Right.
you know, because I know there's a higher percentage for single moms than there is for single fathers, but still, I didn't think it was going to be 80% of
just
the
hearing
populace.
that, I was like, wow.
So what are your thoughts, Ashley?
I'm actually kind of shocked that I was surprised. I've been a CASA, volunteer CASA for the last 5 years. So I see, for people who don't know what a CASA is, it's a court-appointed special advocate for children with the Summit County Juvenile Court.
Oh, good for you.
Awesome.
So, you know, you see things, you experience things, you learn a lot of things, but that is still shocking.
I didn't realize it was so high. Did you, Ebony? So what do you think?
Well, I ain't gonna say when I had my kid, and I say, well, he told me listen, I didn't even know I was pregnant.
Oh no, go for it. This is an open
this is what
floor.
my baby's dad told me. This one pages was out. He texted me, said, call me, so I called him. He told me, you pregnant. It ain't mine. You wasn't nothing but a convenient fuck and get an abortion. That's what that
Ooh,
said.
yeah.
So you know I wasn't getting no money from him.
Oh,
No.
No.
And I
saying?
actually had a
Yeah.
friend who was doing it on her own because her significant other, her son's father, got deported.
Oh,
So I
That's rough.
imagine.
Yeah.
I imagine what do you do in that situation to
Right.
petition for child support, you know? So yeah, I agree that, and I just wanted to make it serious for a second because really, truly, the things that we went through in even being married, when you're going through stuff with kids, I'm sorry, they're still human. They're not. Just because they're little and innocent does not make them not human. And it doesn't make you not have human emotions when they're being jerks. So saying that, we were just talking before the show about fuck them kids. because really, truly, people don't understand that phrase. And it's simply because we would die for our children. We would give our very last morsel for our children, our very essence, our soul for our children. But they're assholes. They are probably the biggest assholes you will ever have in your life because they don't realize things the way that we do now. And for them, it's an immediate need, an immediate, if I don't have it now, I don't know what my life is going to be like without it, kind of thing. Whereas we know time and patience gets the work done, whereas they don't. So yes, as they're growing, it is amazing to find out that yes, they are assholes and it is okay for us to not like them. I don't like my children many times. I love them with every fiber of my being. But yes, I definitely think that women, I used to tell my kids back in the day, this is why in the wild mothers eat their young. So I want to talk to you guys, speaking of kids, and they say things that I tell you what, I that is one of my joys as a mom, is you never know what they're going to say. And it trips you out when they say something intelligent and when they say something absolutely ludicrous.
Yes.
So on that note, I want to share with you a story about my son. Now, my daughter and my son are definitely, as Ashley said, a little bit of me. And I am weird and I say weird things. and it's really funny when we were driving down the road and my son wanted Taco Bell. I think he was 3 years old at the time. And he says he wanted Taco Bell. And I said, well, we can't get Taco Bell. He said, well, there's hot dogs at Taco Bell. And I said, no, they don't sell hot dogs at Taco Bell. And he goes, yeah, they do. I said, well, I'm going to call them and ask them about about these hot dogs. And he says, oh, they're out of them. Just like that. Oh, they're out of them. And I'm like, how does a 3-year-old come up with something like that? So that's one of my favorite stories about my kid. The other one is for years and years and years, my daughter couldn't say gift certificate. So it was gift certificate. So now, and what's really a joy now that they're grown is I can share these stories with them and say, the one time, like when my son, we were driving down the roads and I told him that you're driving me crazy. And he goes, I want to go. He didn't quite know what I meant, but okay. So what about you, Joy?
Oh, there's a lot. So let me say this about my son. His name is Jason. Jason was born with a developmental disability,
Okay.
autism trait. So as a mother, we already have our challenges
Absolutely.
with any child, but I had another layer of that. So my whole mission has been for this child to be as independent as he can. And,
That's good for you.
and I'm happy to say he has a little job he goes to.
Oh, good.
He really takes really good care of me. He's pretty independent, and that was my thing. But he is the sweetest thing ever. But like any child, he would get into mischief and do things, and Jason, and then he would just look at me and go, Mom, calm down. And that was just infuriating. You don't tell me to calm down. I'm your mother. But
Worst 2 words ever.
he is a real joy. He's with me. You don't have to go anywhere if you don't want to. But he's self-sufficient. I can go out of town and he's fine.
And you go out of town a lot. I see your posts. You go travel and have a good time.
Yes, honey. I'm out next week. Next week I'll be on a plane. Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot. It's just those little things with him because of the disability, and when he does stuff, like the first time he went in the kitchen and like cooked me breakfast.
Wait, was any of it raw?
No.
Oh, good. Because my kids tried to do that and I almost died.
He doesn't even eat eggs.
Oh my goodness.
And just the little things, and he sees things that need to be done, and he he'll do them around the house. And we have 2 cats. He'll change the litter box. He'll feed them.
Aw.
So those
Well, that's
are all-
awesome. And that's
yeah.
and really truly that's where when you're having a rough day and they do stuff like that.
Right.
It's what matters. It's what brings you joy.
Right. And a single mom.
Yeah.
And his father's been in and out. And I want to go back to the child support thing.
Yeah.
A lot of women just let the fathers fall by the wayside. I fought tooth and nail for it to happen. And his dad had gotten out the Air Force, gone back to Dallas to go to college. And I fought that from Ohio to Texas, and I made it happen. He
Good for
tried to
you.
avoid it, and I kept going. Finally, Texas said, if you don't show up, we're going to put a warrant out for your arrest.
Now that's what I'm struggling with right now is the interstate, because of the fact that as much as I've tried to reach out to his state of residency, my state of residency is my liaison, is what I found out, and they're the ones that talk to his, and that's where you got to stay on your caseworker to stay on their caseworker,
Yes.
because of the fact that you can't do anything directly.
My caseworker at the time, I had gone back to school. I'm in my 30s. I'm going back to school, get my education on welfare, but that worker was relentless. She was relentless.
Good.
And
Good.
it happened in
I do think, and that goes for men and women. I think that if you have a child with somebody, it does not matter how you feel about that person as a person. It doesn't matter. You brought life into this world. Now it is your responsibility,
Right.
period.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Forget what the other person's doing or don't doing. I mean, that was the one thing is I had to get to a point where I only was emailing him, because he harassed me so much. I had to change my phone number because he harassed me so much. So regardless of what he's doing, I still had to do what was right by
For
my
the
kids.
child.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's more frustrating when they act like your ex, because I had one that was like me and one that's like him. And that's so hard to love somebody that acts just like somebody you want nothing to do with. For real. So, what about you, Lisa? Have you experienced any fun things with your kids?
My youngest son, Jacob, is a lot like me. Now that he's a teenager, he's more like his dad. But when he was 4, he understood sarcasm. And I'm a little sarcastic. And
No.
Not at all.
he would stop me in the middle of saying something. And he said, "Are you just being sarcastic right now?"
Oh my God. At 4?
At 4. He's way too smart. And I was like, yeah, I am. And he said, "How about you just be serious for a minute and answer the
No.
question?"
What? Oh my gosh. Who are you? What'd you do with my kid?
And I had to remember I was speaking to a 4-year-old child,
Yes.
because you want to just,
You want to be an adult to that child right then and there.
you're talking like an adult. I want to talk back to you like an adult,
Right.
but I had to bite my tongue.
So, Caitlin,
So,
do you have any stories yet?
I do. I have some funny things. So, David can't say Star Wars. He calls it Star Whores.
Oh,
So
that's
he'll-
fantastic.
So he'll be running around the house saying he wants to watch Star Wars.
Mine was Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
I said, I'm wondering what that porno might actually look like at this
Right.
point,
I was like, Star Wars, huh? All right, that's interesting. And he also can't say elbow. He calls it a belbo.
Oh.
So
Tomorrow.
yeah, and instead of saying tomorrow, he says tomorrow. So
See.
we're still working on some
Mine
of the
couldn't do
words.
ends. So everything was ends. Everything. And that's actually what was funny is I was trying to teach him how to say Mima when he was little, because my mom freaking hated that. She hated any kind of Southern like derogatory of grandma, right? And so he couldn't say his M's. So it came out Nina. So, and it stuck. That's who she is now. She's Nina. Everybody calls her Nina. So yeah, because my son couldn't pronounce his M, he actually made the family name for her. So it was great.
Just for reference, there actually is a porno called Booty and the Beast.
Oh,
thanks.
So
The man knows his stuff.
you know what? I'm going to leave that one alone.
And Kevin Smith actually used the name Star Horse for the fake porno that he used in his movies that can merely make a porno.
Wow, all the fun facts.
Now, Ashley, I know you've got some stuff because you were talking about your little man earlier. So what do you got?
I was sitting here thinking, like, what do I have? He's so small right now, but he talks a lot. And I think the one thing that stunned me recently was I was sitting on the couch editing pictures, and he comes over running after watching his TV show, and he's like, "What you talking about?" I'm like,
What you talking about?
I thought it was the funniest thing in that moment because I'm just like, "What are you?"
No, that's the thing is certain things just those are our moments.
Mhm.
Those are really our moments, to be honest. I mean, my son, I had Reese's cups cooling in my in my crisper because that's where they're best, right? So he at 2 years old decided to make, and I had at the time one of those walk through kitchens that can go right into the dining room, living room, and he went in, and when he came out, he had chocolate. I said, "What did you do?" So, Ebony, what about you?
Kids probably was like, I want to say they had to be like maybe 4 and 2 at the time. So y'all know how the 4-way lights is. So every time we would get to the 4-way lights, I would tell my kids, because you can see it. I said, okay, on the count of 3, everybody got to go like this and watch the light change. So I had to do that to my kids all the time. So one day my son was like, "Ma, you know you can see the other side of the light." I never knew that. And so my daughter, like, I'm one of the people, like, I raised my kids the way we was raised. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you ain't had nothing, you make stuff up or use what you got. So one day my daughter told me, we didn't have no iron. I said, "Girl, I'm going to show you how to do this. Fold your clothes up, like, you know how you get them out the dryer. Fold them up. Girl, put them up under the mattress." So then the next morning when she went to school, she was like, "Mom doing this every day." So
You know,
I thought
those
that was
are
a
my
cool parent
favorites.
for doing that, though.
Those are my favorite stories, is when we're just winging it.
Right.
One of the things my mom used to do is the magic socks. So when we would go through growing pains, she would throw socks in the dryer, and then she would wrap the warm sock around our calf, and we would go right back to sleep. And that was and she was the most inventive person for Santa Claus. I swear to God, I believed in Santa Claus till I was like 16. I swear to God, because she did such a fantastic job. But she used to take shoes and dip them in flour and stomp them around the house to show. And we never caught on that snow melts. So I was an innocent, naive kid, and it was fun. So one of the things that I do want to talk about is life lessons. So nobody gives us anything. I mean, yes, we hear our moms tell us how they raised us, and before that they had nothing. So, we all went through a phase of winging it. One of the life lessons that I learned from my kids is that it's okay to be audacious. It's okay. It's okay for you to say and speak your mind. Now, where I curve them is when they're speaking their mind and they're not thinking logically. You're feeling and you're speaking. You're not thinking and speaking. So that's where as they grow, as they're being grown, I try to teach them as I learn, because I was caged for 25 years in my marriage and in a relationship. I've never been a single individual. I don't know what that's like. So this newfound freedom that I have for the last year and a half, it's almost like I went back to 18 and I'm starting where I should have been when I got married. So I don't know the first thing about being a single individual in this world that we live in. So everything is a life lesson for me. I will divulge to you guys, I recently had my car repossessed. And I want to express that to people because I was 45 years old. And for the first time in my life, I had that happen. And I had to reflect on it for a good week because I felt so much like a failure. And really what it was I was paying too much attention to what my kids needed. And the lesson I learned from this experience is that I can't take care of them, put a roof over their head, put food in their mouth, if I'm more worried about what they're doing and not about what I'm doing. So that's where I graciously take lessons, as hard as they are sometimes. As a single individual, it's not just about being a single mom. We don't know. We know nothing. And we can sit here after years of mishaps and startovers and joke about it because really, truly, we're just thankful that worked out. that worked out, because you got a 50-50 shot of killing your kid first year. I'm just saying. I will tell you that first year, and that's why my son and I are so close, is because that first year was, I was 20. I just turned 21 and I got married and had a honeymoon baby. So I didn't even know what an adult does. I knew I needed a job and I knew my kid needed me, and that's all I knew. Everything else that I did during that time frame was just simply making sure that he could get up in the morning and survive the day, because of the literal, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, this child got into hair dye and I had to call poison control. And I almost killed him by drowning him in water because I thought they told me to flush it out. So I flushed it out. So that's what I want to talk about. You had mentioned, Joy, that because you have a disabled child, I'm sure you have had your quite a few mishaps over the years. What about you?
The one thing, it's a balance,
Mm-hmm.
and you do have to know how to balance it for your own sake as well as the child.
Mhm.
Because if you don't take care of yourself,
Now,
You
when your
can't.
son was younger, though, did you have that mentality?
no. But I had a village.
That's what's important.
I had a village. Fortunately,
Shout out to
my
the
parents were
Yes.
very
Definitely.
Yeah, my parents were very involved. They were older, so they were ecstatic when this grandchild came along.
Mhm.
And for the first 9, in all transparency, the first 9 years of his life, he spent a lot of time with them.
Oh, okay.
And I was off being wild in my 20s, doing what 20-year-olds did back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, I realized I needed to do better for his life to be better. I went back to school, and when he was 9, we just picked up and moved to Kent. And I went to
Wow.
school. By then, my mom was sick, and actually she passed away 2 months after we left.
Oh,
And my dad was just very supportive even after my mom was gone. Even my last year at Kent State, I had to do an internship. My father came down that summer and helped out with Jason and took him to camp every day.
oh
And
my
he
God, that's
cooked
so
dinner
awesome.
so I could finish. So
That's
by
fortunate.
then I'm 35 years old. I got my degree.
But I mean, that's
Yeah.
fortunate that you had a village. Though.
So the village helped. I have 2 wonderful brothers. They are really involved with my son as well.
Now, did they help kind of teach him how to be the man that he is
They
now?
spent time with him, especially my brother that's here. My baby brother left, went to college, into the service, so he lives out of state. But my brother here, he helps out a lot.
That is awesome, because I know from other mothers that I've talked to with disabled children, it's a lifestyle change. It's
Mhm.
literally, it's not even a pick up and have a good day and then you have a bad day kind of thing. You literally have to rearrange your life for this child.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. I just had a senior moment.
Oh, is that what they're called? Crap. I'm not ready for senior moments, but I have them.
Especially on when he was little, just trying to keep up with him. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't turn my back. Like if we was in the store and he would be gone, but
Oh.
his keen sense of hearing, I could almost in a whisper go, Jason, and he come running.
And he hears your mama's voice. He hears mama's voice, and he
He
knows.
would come running. But he's very, very sweet. I believe I was given this child to save me. I was a little
That's it.
wild, all over the place, in my 20s, but I had to think, when I really wanted to go over the edge, the thought of him kept me from going
I feel that. I do
going
feel
over
that.
the edge because I need to be here for this child.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, with yours,
Yes.
what kind of life lessons have you learned with yours?
Well, I wasn't supposed to be able to have children, so my first one was a big surprise.
Well, that's good. I mean, that means that
Yeah.
he was meant to be.
But kind of what you were saying, like, I feel like my children saved me because I had a lot of anger problems and just mad at the world, and I didn't really care
Yeah.
what was going on. And when my first son was born, that's when I realized that I needed to change and kind of let go of what I was holding on to. And because I had another human to be responsible for.
And that's, I think, what drives us the most is the fact that
Yes.
that was your choice
Mm-hmm.
and you owned it. No matter what the world brought to you, you still own it. And that's a beautiful thing. It really is, because I will tell you that first year for you ladies, I'm sure you completely get that first year. They cry, and I will tell you, my second child was almost harder than my first child because I got
Definitely.
so accustomed to him communicating with me and talking to me, and I got used to it. And then when my daughter was born, just tell me what you want.
Yeah.
So it is almost harder for the second child because the fact and I'm sorry, if you have had more than one child, that next child is screwed. I will tell you, she got bumps, bruises, scrapes. You'll live, I was all over Eric every single moment. He was this little thing, and oh my God, he's gonna die, and with Liz, it was,
Fine.
yeah. What you crying for?
That's what I told Caitlin when she was pregnant with her second one. I
Yeah.
said, no one ever talks about this because we think we're bad moms if we do, but your second child is going to put you through it.
It
And it
really,
has.
Yes.
I
It
will
has.
say, yes.
Yeah. it
Yes,
is. Yeah.
that is a true
I
statement.
said, no one
Interesting.
likes to talk about how hard it is to go from one child to two because you think your life changes because of this first one. But when you got the one, you're solely focused on them. And when you have the second, you're trying to
now you're
juggle.
dueling, yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I
yeah.
didn't fully realize what she was telling me until I had that second child. I was like,
And then
oh,
all
shit,
of a
this
sudden,
has
the first
changed
child
everything.
becomes even needier than the second child.
Yeah.
And what
regressive.
happened with me is, and this is why I always say, get it out of your systems. If you want babies in your life, get it out of your system. Do it. Pop them out left and right, and then stop.
Yes.
For real, because I made the mistake of having them 6 years apart, and having two only children was ridiculously challenging. I would give them two choices and they would pick one of the choices a piece. So why even bother asking you guys? Because you're never gonna agree. So that's why I agree with you that and really truly you got to give it up to the older child, because a lot of times the older child has suppressed anger issues of abandonment because of the second child. So so that is
That's interesting.
absolutely true
But,
about
yeah.
about having more than one.
Oh,
And-
my parents pissed me off because they ended up having 2 more after me.
Uh,
I'm the
Oh,
firstborn.
So
so am I.
so you should feel sorry for your middle sibling. That one.
Oh no,
got
he was an
screwed.
asshole. He's the only one that's ever been to jail, juvenile, any of that shit. No, screw that.
Okay, well then never mind. You're not
Yeah,
stereotyped because
okay.
usually it's the middle child that's always begging for the attention. Maybe that's why he went to jail. He
He's
was begging
also
for attention.
maybe I don't know, but all I know is that when the day he popped out, my mom's like, "What do you want his name to be?" And I said, "Jiminy Cricket."
So Caitlin, what about you? What's a life lesson you've kind of learned thus far?
Well, I'm definitely still learning lots of lessons as my kids are still really young. So far I'm just trying to learn like not to be so hard on myself. As moms, we're not perfect. We're still learning how to do things and every day is different. So yeah, you might see the moms on Instagram who make it seem like they have this figured out when really they're just figuring out just like we are.
I think that hits on a really
Mhm.
big pain point is social media. We are so crippled as parents because perfection is out there on social media. And that's what we're competing with is the Susie homemakers that
Mhm.
bake the cookies instead of going to Target and buying the sugary ones. Those we're talking the ones that tell you what's gluten-free, what's what's got allergies in it with peanuts and stuff. That's what we are competing with. But I will tell you, one of my favorite Pinterests is one where they made a lamb cake. And then you see the actual reality of the lamb cake, and it looks like something from the Blue Lagoon. And just like, I don't know what that is, but it's not a lamb. That's us. The Pinterest is the perfection we fight against.
And like you said, every day is different, and I don't care how old your children get. It's a lifelong learning experience.
I agree.
You're gonna learn something every step of the way. If you live to be 80 and your children are 60, you're gonna be learning.
I'm still gonna be learning.
And maybe not some things you want to learn.
That's true. That's true. There's some unwanted lessons in it, but they're lessons. Yeah.
So Ashley, I'm sure you've got some lessons too, huh?
I do. Yeah. I think the biggest lesson for me is be patient. Patience. That's
Oh my goodness.
Especially
yes.
dealing with this time where he's really learning his emotions and he just has huge feelings. One wrong word. One wrong word. It's just so big. Like,
And it's
I
going
can't
to crush
put
his
fire with
world.
fire. Learning patience, but it's definitely it's
But
huge.
Mommy, I wanted
Huge lesson.
one cookie, just one. We're going to
All right, use your words. And you can talk. You
Please
talk,
express
you can do a lot of
yourself.
things with your words. You do a lot of them. But yeah.
You know a lot of them.
Yes.
Yes.
Watch and pay attention, but Mason, my son is 2.5. He's reading at a second grade level. He can do
That's
math at
beautiful.
a first grade level.
Now, the only thing I worry about children that can do that is that they get bored easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
That's the
granddaughter like that.
only hard part is school is going to be a challenge for him because he gets bored easily. And
that's why
and
we're choosing school choices wisely because we're recognizing that we need
yeah,
schools that are going to be able to continue to grow with him and not because I mean that was me to a certain point, especially later on when I switched schools, when I went from private to public schools, and that year that I was in public school, I felt like an alien. Everybody thought I was so smart. I was doing this, I was doing that, but really it was just a difference in learning and a difference in the school.
yeah,
So, like,
really.
I recognized that really early on, and we're definitely going to be taking that into consideration as he continues to develop and learn.
Right.
We're chasing him.
Well, and interestingly enough, with that, a lot of they push pre-K, they push it. And I don't believe, unless you need a full-time daycare, that you need it, because even though they do activities with the kids and stuff, it's really just a daycare.
Right.
There's
Right.
nothing in preschool that actually is preschool. Like, it's just a daycare, because they do the same thing with daycares. I actually, when we moved to Cleveland, transitioned from my daughter being in daycare to their preschool program. And all it is just tables. That's the only difference, is they have tables to do crafts at, but it's really no different than anything else. And I was going to tell you guys, the one thing that floors me today is how much high school looks like a prison. For real. I don't know if you guys have been around high schoolers recently, but it literally looks horrible to go to, and listen to these kids. Like, I'm dropping my daughter off at like 7:45, and the first bell is at 7:50. Do you know if she's not in her classroom at 7:50, she gets a tardy?
Yep.
Even if
Yeah.
she's present in the school, she
Yeah.
still gets a
Yeah,
freaking
gotta be in
tardy.
that
You gotta be ready to go. Yeah.
What the hell happened to our schools? Good God.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to the kid that was snacking breakfast and just scoots right in right as roll call happens? That we went to school like that, and now
Isn't that what homeroom used to be for?
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what it is you have to eat. My daughter actually got a detention because obviously we fought it, but she got a detention because she dropped her stuff off at class. She went to the bathroom before the first bell, and as she's coming back to class, the bell rings, and hall monitor caught her and served her a slip. Like, she couldn't even explain herself or anything. You just got detention because you're out in the halls. What happened to our high schools where high school became a prison?
Can I answer that?
I don't know, Lee. Can you answer that?
Columbine.
Yes.
That's
is
true.
where it
Yeah,
started.
that's exactly.
Yes.
when that
I was a
started.
freshman in high school when Columbine happened, and my last 3 years of high school were absolute hell.
Yes.
Because
because
we
of it.
overly
Because
protected
of
our
it.
kids.
Well, not only that, but I was the kid that sat in the back of the class wearing Metallica t-shirts, so I was the one that kept going. He's next.
You Satanist. So, one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is ER visits. Ladies, I'm going to skip around on our agenda. Let's talk ER visits, all right? Because really, truly, I do believe if they survive our first year, for real, it's it's amazing to see them grow. But that first year, the ridiculousness of having to explain to a doctor why you're in the emergency room and why they have something stuck up in their nose is absolutely ridiculous. So I'll start off by telling you guys that first year is no surprise to you. Eric ended up in the ER quite often, not by me, but by him. He was a rambunctious 2-year-old who liked to run around in the living room. And it did not matter if you were laying on the floor, if you were sitting in the chair, he ran around you and he would trip over your feet and he would fall. And one particular day, it was absolutely strenuous because he was overly active and he was running around and he caught his eye right here
Oh,
on the curve of the rocker
oof.
in my living room. And it literally swelled his eyes up and this big goose egg came up on his face. And I damn near lost my shit right then and there. I thought he was going to die. But one of the things that appalled me was we sat in the emergency room for 3 hours and we ended up leaving and having him treated at a clinic because at an ER we had to wait because he was non-emergency. And I'm like, you're not going to even test that? He could have a freaking concussion. Are you kidding me? So that is one of the battles I noticed today is when I have some funny stories of going to the ER, but what I find appalling is that when you take your kid to the ER, we have a fear as women that we screwed our kid up. And when it is then it is then reinforced when doctors and child support services shows up in your room. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that, but I have, where I was a newly mom and my son was 6 weeks premature, and I was feeding him cereal at 6 weeks instead of formula because I wanted him to sleep through the night. And he got dehydrated and he ended up in an emergency room. And I will tell you, they had to put the IV in his head because he was only 18 months old. Or no, he was 6 weeks old, excuse me. They had to put his thing in his head, and they take the kid away for that because no mother wants to see them putting something in their kid's newborn brain, you know. But it is, the reason why I say that is because I ended up having a caseworker show up as a new mom, and they don't give you that warm and fuzzy feeling that they're trying to help you. And as a 21-year-old, I was sitting here freaking out because they were going to take my baby. And that is why I find it interesting that as moms, we have to deal with a lot of explaining ourselves, and there's a reason behind what we do and stuff. So I wanted to kind of put it to the table as far as like, what have you guys experienced with your kids having to deal with like emergency situations, or like my son burned his arms on a grill when he was 4 because he was running around the grill after a cookout and he burned his arms playing hide and seek. You know, stuff like that happens all the time that we can't control. But I tell you what, as a mom, I lose my shit every time something happens to my kids like that. Like, it's my fault, even though it's not my fault. And I don't know if I'm the only one that feels the pressure when you take a child into the emergency room and it feels like you're a bad mom. Like, they make you feel like a bad mom for showing up there with your kid having injuries. And I just wanted to kind of put it to the table. Have you guys ever experienced anything like that?
I don't think I did.
No?
Mm-mm.
How about any kind of ER visits that you thought your kid was going to die and he ended up being all right?
Mm-mm.
No?
Mm-mm.
You've had that
Physically, he's always been, you know, as a child, he was healthy, no major accidents, nothing.
No broken bones?
He's never had a broken bone.
Wow.
Lucky.
Wow, right? I mean, that's every time my kid climbed a tree, I was so afraid
Yeah,
I was going to
no
end up in the
broken
ER.
bones.
That's
Yeah.
amazing, though, because that's kind of that. I will tell you, that's one less stress on your back.
As an adult, a few years ago, I guess he was. I don't know why he was doing this, shaving under his arms. But he developed a boil,
Oh,
and he didn't say anything for a long time, and it was
yeah,
bad.
I bet
bad.
it was real
Yeah,
painful.
ouch.
Took him to the ER, and we sat there for hours. And when they lanced that thing, it was just horrible.
Oh, and I bet he was. Oh,
Yeah. it
did they
was
at least
very-
numb the site?
They did, but
Not enough for
it
it
was
to.
so much because it was really big, and then it smelled horrible.
Oh, I bet.
And I'm like, boy, don't be shaving up on the arm.
But really, I mean, you bring up a good point, is that our kids do stuff to themselves, and you're like, I know I was way more intelligent back then to do that, but at the same time, you have to go through it.
But fortunately, nothing too major.
Well, that's good. I mean, my kids
Physically,
didn't
yeah.
break any bones, luckily, but I think it's really good that you didn't have to deal with the stress of it.
But
At
you know,
all.
I understand that when things happen, and you know, especially now with everything that's going on in the world, if you take a kid into the ER, they're going to suspect something
Mhm.
negative, so they're going to bring in that social worker
Right.
to assess the situation. And
Mhm.
sometimes I know they're not the nicest people. There's no empathy or whatever.
Right.
And it's hard to go through that when you know your child had an accident.
Well, and you're already
happened,
feeling bad enough.
But then you can't blame them because so much abuse does go on.
I agree.
Right.
That's-
In the world,
I
and children
agree.
are being abused and killed every single day.
Well, that's the only time I get upset with the caseworkers situation is because unfortunately for our society, our other halves that created these children also have the right to call anonymously into CPS.
Mhm.
And I actually went through that a few years back where it was like every month CPS was showing up at my house. And I finally got to the point where they were literally telling me I needed to, it wasn't required, but they highly suggested I be drug test. Like, why am I having to defend the fact that I'm taking care of my child when the other half's not, So I actually did ask Cuyahoga County about the caseworker I had. And she said the unfortunate part is just like what Joyce said, there's so many kids in so many situations. They can't just take somebody's word for it that it's not
Right.
happening.
It's a process.
So that
Mhm.
is where I
For
get
sure.
mad at our system because of the fact that these caseworkers have to go through. I mean, I used to have such a good relationship with CPS that we would sit there and they would tell me stories about, because they would come and it was like, there's nothing wrong here. There's no, there's food in the house. There's no reason for me to be here. They're just checking boxes. And after a while, they told me the only thing that you can do without filing some sort of motion is after a while, it's up to CPS. If you have a trend of anonymous calls that end up seeming like they're false accusations, they can choose not to take the call and hang up. And that in my
Okay.
case is what ended up happening is I had too many frequent calls that ended up not being anything for them to deal with. So at this point, it's crying wolf. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's totally crying wolf.
Why can't they press charges against those people?
It's anonymous
Because it's
calling.
anonymous.
Yeah.
That's-
even though they know, that was the thing, even though they know who it
People are
is,
also anonymously calling.
yeah,
Mhm.
they know it's the father or the mother that's doing it, but they can't officially
Prove
call
it.
it right.
They can't
Right.
prove it.
They can't prove it. And because of that, and it's a confidential notification, so they can't divulge, even though all they did with me was nod because they knew and I knew who it was that kept calling on
Right.
me. So it's no point at that point, but there's nothing I can do, So
Isn't that wasting resources though? I mean, couldn't they sit there and trace the number and everything?
That's why they end up having so many cases, though, and then why people slip through the cracks.
Yep.
Me.
Can you? I gotta get in the parking lot. I'm sorry.
okay, so moving on, Ashley. But those are the things that we if you because you deal with the juvenile court system, and I have dealt with the juvenile court system myself, and I will tell you, you think the adult system is broken.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've been trying to get
It's
just
all rough.
temporary custody for 5 months. Just temporary custody, not even full custody, just so I could take care of my adopted daughter.
Mhm.
So that's why I say I absolutely hate going down to Quincy because of the simple fact that it looks foreboding for real. It just like the whole building looks painful to go in. It's sad. It's horrible. But the thing that I do notice is if you go in there with that level of respect, you get that level of respect versus some of these, excuse my French, baby mama, baby daddies that go up in there and have to rant and rave about their rights. You don't have rights when you go into the juvenile court system. The child does. You leave your rights at the door. They don't give a rat's ass about your rights as a parent. They care about the
Care
child.
about the child.
They care about the child.
And-
That's it.
And the well-being and the best interest of
Absolutely.
the child. And that is it.
That is it. That's all they care about. And if it don't fit within that frame, it don't matter to them. One of the things that I got caught with is I didn't send the motions certified. Yes, that matters. It really matters, because in order for them to know whether or not the opposite party shows up for the case, they have a record of them receiving that notification. So that is why it matters. Now, is it unfair that I haven't had my case heard for 5 months? Sure. Would it have been fair for them to tell me that? Absolutely. But I chose to represent myself, and therefore I waived any of their ability to help me at that
Right.
point. So that's why I find it interesting. Now, in your life path, because I don't know if you've had anything like major happen with your son yet. What kind of life lessons have you learned just doing what you do?
Some life lessons is that I learned being a CASA is that families, people, dynamics are just very different. And communication is one of the biggest things, is to make sure everybody understands. Make sure you communicate properly. When it comes to at least those situations, that's why a lot of people don't enjoy social workers. They don't enjoy that process. Somebody gets hurt and you have to go to the hospital, and you wonder and you worry because the communication of that is not there. You know, they come in, they start talking to you, they're telling you all of these things instead of like actually making sure that you understand and explaining it
I
to you
agree.
in a way that you can feel more calm, because it doesn't always have to be stressful. It's not always a bad thing when they come. They're just doing
They're
what
just
they need
doing
to
their
do.
job. Yes.
But it's just not always relayed properly.
No, I agree. And even with you guys' social work, that's got to be hard too, because the fact that not every case is going to be a happy ending,
Oh no.
you know, and
But,
I applaud,
yeah.
I will tell you, I applaud mothers that can actually do that kind of job, because that's got to be hard as hell to watch these kids have no hope. It just has to be heartbreaking.
That's where CASAs come in.
Exactly.
They're the voice of the child. That's where CASAs come in. That's the CASA's job, is to, if the children are younger, then it's a little bit different because they're too young to have wishes and things like that. Because they just can't understand. When you have
Right.
older children, that's where the CASA is the most helpful. You know, you make sure that they understand what's going on. You facilitate that. If they have needs, you facilitate that to the court.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's why they're important.
I agree. I absolutely agree, because typically, even with this situation that I'm in, and she's 16, I try my best to explain to her, and I give her a heads up that no, none of this is going to be fair. No, as much as we want to talk about why you're in this situation, the courts don't care. The only thing they care about is that you're safe and that you have food to eat. That's all they care about. So it's really hard for her to understand when you want to talk to the judge about all the things he did to bring you to where you're at. Yeah, I want you to tell your story. However, it makes no relevancy in this particular case, because the only thing they care about is where your welfare is. And the fact that they have allowed her to stay in my home when I have no custodial rights to her speaks volumes of where she came from. The fact that the courts don't want her in that space and they want her in my space speaks volumes. So it's not like they're trying to subvert me or trying to get around what I'm trying to do for her. It's they want me to do it, but they want me to do it the right way.
Right.
And that's what's
Right.
important. And I think a lot of parents that end up at Quincy don't realize that. It's not, they're not trying to be assholes to you. They're just trying to get you to do right in order for that to flow.
Right. Yeah.
In order for it to work that way. And I absolutely agree with you that is what you guys are for, is because kids don't understand the legal system in no way, shape, or form. They just know they have to keep showing up. They have to keep telling the courts the same thing over and over and over again. It's exhausting. They have to relive experiences they don't want to live, so it's good that you are there for them and at their level too.
I applaud you for that.
Yes.
I purposely stayed away from children's services, the Department of Families and Children. I knew that I could not do that work.
I couldn't do it either.
I don't think I
Even
could,
though
no.
I've worked on the end working with pregnant mothers. Now I work with people living with HIV and AIDS. I stayed away from those children. I could not see myself pulling babies out of homes. And
Right. All right. How
So
did
I
you make that
applaud
call
you.
and have it? And I do applaud caseworkers because in certain situations, yeah, it's black and white. And then
Right.
other situations, you got to make a gut call.
Right.
And
It's
if you make the
gray.
wrong one, you've just ruined a family
right.
Yeah.
forever.
And change the child's entire life.
The
Absolutely.
Yeah.
trajectory of their life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of responsibility.
For real.
Well, and I applaud you because you also do photography as well. So that's kind of almost like an outlet for you. You get all your energy and your vibe drained from the day, and then you get to go play with your camera, and capture beautiful moments. So that in and of itself is kind of a balance for you.
And the
Balance.
concert is volunteer. My day job, I'm an engineer. I work with all men. I feel like I'm the mom in situation. But I'm an engineer, so it's definitely a way to decompress from that part of my day.
Yes.
It's taking care of grown ass men. They are all outlets. I really do try to keep myself as calm as possible so I can approach situations, especially with CASA, right? You don't want to be there around the children and you're not approaching the situation.
Well, and you don't want them to feel that
Exactly.
frustrated vibe. You
Because
don't.
then they
Yeah.
don't know what's going on.
Right.
Well, that's
So-
even more reason to applaud you because it's a volunteer. It's something
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
you chose to do from your heart.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that's absolutely beautiful. So what about you, Ebony? What kind of life lessons have you learned doing what you do with the kids?
Well, it was kind of hard because my mother or my dad wasn't in my life.
Mhm.
I met my mom when I was 10, and I don't know my dad. And usually it's always the dad you meet later on.
Right.
But my grandmother raised me, so it was like I honestly didn't get to know my kids until they were like 3 and 5 because I had a small village. So they share one set of godparents, but then my daughter had a separate godparent, her godmother. So they were,
Moving
taking care
around
of
the
them
family.
because I was
Right.
working. And so
Right.
my grandmother raised me, but she never worked. So I'm like, I could never understood. I never understood it. Even to this day, like you never worked. But I worked with my kids. So as they got old, so when I finally got to meet them, it was like, wow. So now I'm a mom. So I'm trying to
Yep.
keep the same rhythm that their godparents had for them, like trying to take them to trips because my children, everywhere they went as kids, they went with their godparents.
Right.
My kids probably was like maybe 10 and 12 when I finally took them to the Canfield Fair by myself as their mom. Because they went with
Right.
everybody else. I'm like, oh my goodness. So it kind of made it hard for me. Because
Live up to that
right.
expectation.
So
I
it's
agree.
just like, oh my goodness. And then I shouldn't have did that, but I put them in categories like, okay, you're a boy and you're a girl. So it was different rules for them.
Mhm.
Like, where I'm like, okay, I tell my son, you be in the house at 8. I tell my daughter, you got to be in at 6. You know what I'm saying? Because I never knew how to parent the right
I
way.
agree. But in saying that too, it's hard for girls, if you have daughters, it's hard for them to understand why we do that. One of the things that I have had to explain to my daughter over and over and over again is, baby, you are a blonde, blue-eyed, beautiful young lady. And Cleveland is 5th in human trafficking. You don't get to stay out till the lights come on,
Before.
And there was one night I was working my second job, and I came home. I allowed her to have a birthday party. I think it was her friend's 18th birthday party, and I let her have a birthday party while I was at work. And I came home at like 10, 11 o'clock. Nobody was home. All the lights were on. It looked like there was a party, and no message, no nothing. I'm calling everybody, and there's like 5 girls that came that night, and I'm messaging everybody. I'm calling, blowing up phones and stuff. They come walking in. Oh, we just walked up to Circle K. I said, excuse me? I said, oh, we went as a group. No, honey, there'll be, if there's 5 of you, there's 5 of them. Trust and believe they will make sure they accommodate if they're going to take you. You know what I'm saying? There's, in this day and age, that ain't safe to go in groups. It's about being smart when you go in groups. Don't just go in groups. Have somebody be that
Right.
neighborhood watcher that sees every twitch, everything moving while we're walking around. You know, have that high sense of, but
What to do when you think a car is following you.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I get paranoid when I turn and somebody turns behind me and then and they go the same. Exactly. You know, I get paranoid with that. I did that one time. I purposely got off the highway because I seriously thought somebody was freaking following me. You know, so that's why I think it's important too with daughters. And trust and believe, when I didn't let my son out of my sight until he was 16. And by then he was 6'1", and I don't think I have to worry about him. You know, he's intimidating just walking around in and of itself. So, but I still followed him to Walmart that first time that I let him walk to Walmart, because we're that close to it, but we're far enough that it's walkable, you know. But that was the whole point, was letting go. That's the hard part that I think you ladies with the younger kids will have the same heart of, I need to let them do it, but they're going to die. They're going to die. Oh my God, they're going to die.
Yeah,
You know?
I stood at the bus stop with my kids all the way until it was time for them. I felt comfortable with letting them go by themselves. I'm like, no, I'm standing here every morning.
Yep.
Because I see it's too many. I see a lot of kids like,
Yes.
how you let your kids? It's dark outside. Why are your kids at the bus stop by themselves?
Mhm.
That
Right.
worries me.
Yes.
So other kids would come and stand with my kids. It's cool, you know, because it's a parent there. And
Right.
I was like that too. Like, when do I back off and let my kids catch the bus by themselves?
Well, and it's not like when we were kids, you
We
know,
had to walk to school.
we didn't have to, you didn't stand around for hours and
Right.
hours, you know,
Right.
for a bus. So yeah, that is one of the things that I find interesting is, as our kids grow, we as moms, because we've been told, you got to keep an eye on them, you got to make sure they're taken care of. Oh my God, you don't let them out of your sight. And that is true. At what point do we stop? I always differentiate between being a mother and being a mom. So a mother is there to nurture you. She's there to take care of you, feed you, comfort you. A mom is there to be there when you fuck up, to be there when things get hard, to be a haven, an understanding of life just sucks, and it sucks that you have to go through it, and just being a simple or a mentor to your kids. And I started doing that when they were 16, trying to get them prepared for 18. Did you do something like that where you kind of got your kids ready?
Well, I think it depends on what the child is. It's how you install things in and teach them. I don't think there's an age limit to it. I think it's when the child gets to a point of accountability and responsibility.
What is your comfort age, though, for letting them be on their
With
own?
my son, and especially with his disability, it was when he got it.
Okay.
And it comes through talking and understanding. I'm going to share something really personal with you guys. When he was 7 years old, I let him go to camp for the first time. You know, you hear horror stories. And then I have a child whose communication isn't 100.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember getting to camp, sitting on the bed, and having the talk about if someone touched you. I talked about
Right.
fear and,
Yeah.
you know, in the best terms that I could. And if this happened, you need to tell me. But
Right.
don't let anybody do A, B, or C. You say no. 10 years later, with someone we knew and trusted, molested him.
That's a shame.
Because, and it could have went further, but because of what I had instilled in him, he told her no.
Good.
And it just ensued to something really crazy. Long story short, I saw her all the way to prison.
Good.
So,
Good. Because
good,
she doesn't
good.
deserve anything
Right.
else than that. For real.
But again, it's accountability and responsibility and what we instill in that child. And every child is different, so their level of achieving and understanding
I
is
would
going to
agree.
be different. You have more than one child is going to achieve differently from the other child.
I agree.
So the expectations have to be based on the individual.
I agree with that. One of the things that it's hard with having kids so far apart is like my daughter doesn't understand that my son went through the same exact thing. Like she didn't see it because she
She's so much
was
younger.
not, she was 10 years old when he was going through it. So to her, nobody understands because nobody's going through it with her right now. She's going through it by herself. And that was something that had to click in my head. What you were saying is that not all kids you can do that way. Like what you had said, Ebony, about there were rules for your son, that there were rules for your daughter. I think that's how that happens, though, is because of the fact that we see the weakness in women where boys don't necessarily get that same kind of energy or that same kind of attention. In my psychology class, one of the things that I found out was that in a situation like that, they're more inclined to go towards the woman, to feel sympathy and empathy for the woman versus feeling anything for the man. One of the things I think in this world is so dark is that you have women having babies and then having babies and having babies, but then everybody in the neighborhood has had her. And then when she wants support, she doesn't know who the father is. And that hurts him. The father that stepped up to a kid that's not his, he thought it was his, and he got hit in the head with the reality that she wasn't loyal. And that is also something I think is important for us to acknowledge as women, is that if we want that same level of energy from our men, we need to give them that same level of energy, because it really, truly, and that's why I brought up the statistics with male single fathers, is because I hear too often my guy friends talk about the system is always favoring the mother. And really, that's not true, but it's true.
Right.
It's not true because the fact that I have seen in many cases, the woman having to pay alimony, pay child support and stuff because the man was accustomed to living how he was living in the marriage and he makes less. So it's out there. I don't agree that it's an absolute, because I believe that single fathers go through the same kind of thing that single mothers do. But I do think it's corrupt that because they have put the responsibility on the mother to be the parent, we get the hit as well.
That's age old, because think about maybe 50 years ago. Say for instance, the mother died. Traditionally, fathers weren't able to keep their children. They had to go to a grandparent or something, because there was this misnomer that fathers couldn't raise children.
Yes.
So if the mother passed away, the children usually went to some other family member where there was a female involved. I'm actually surprised at the 20% of single
that
fathers.
It's that low. I thought it'd be higher.
No, I thought that was kind of high.
You thought it was kind of high?
I did. 20%. Yeah, I did.
That's how my grandmother got me for what you said, because they don't think that my grandmother, she was messing with my grandfather. He was married, but his wife took care of me. Because my mom, she was on drugs and stuff, so she took care of me. So when she passed away, my mom's mom came and got me because she felt that he couldn't raise me.
No,
right. But
Kevin Hart did a
different.
movie like that, didn't he?
Yes.
What was it called?
Fatherhood.
Yeah.
I absolutely thought that was a beautiful, beautiful movie, because it does show that men do get pushed off to the side when it comes to the nurturing part of children.
Right, yeah.
That's the woman's job. And I don't think that's a fair stereotype
But
either.
It's not. It's
It's
a
not.
parent. It's a parent job, and then somebody find themselves single. Men are capable, I believe.
I do.
mean,
I don't think they get enough credit for that.
Unfortunately, the perfect situation is for a child to be raised by two parents.
Absolutely.
That's not the case. Always.
But then you get situations like Lisa's where she's got the mutual balance, of the 50-50.
Mhm.
So in that case, I absolutely agree that in those cases, there's
That's a
no
good thing.
there's no mom, there's no dad kind of competition there. You what I call the Disneyland dad.
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
have
there's still
that
competition, just not
not
monetary.
that. Well said.
Another movie that I think is unfair to fathers as well is Mrs. Doubtfire. That because he was more
Yes.
childish,
Yeah.
that he was not allowed to have any
absolutely.
custody of his kids
Actually,
at all.
and I did think that the way that they portrayed that movie, like he has to be a nanny in order to be with his kids, like
Yeah.
Which is
that
crazy.
was an interesting way of displaying that. But you're absolutely
And
right.
then he lost his kids again because they found out that he was a cross-dressing
Right,
Englishman,
exactly.
Yeah,
So
no,
damned if
he was
you
really-
damned if you do, damned
Yeah.
if you don't.
It
You know.
mattered that he did whatever it took to see
his
and to be with.
Mhm.
his-
Yeah, that he doesn't
Right,
get credit for
children.
that.
He was penalized.
Right.
He
Yeah.
was penalized
And I think
for it.
society does that. And I think society
sure.
pins us against each other when it comes to the kids. And I don't think they do enough with the child parenting classes. I think it's ridiculous that the parenting classes during a divorce is just so you can get
Oh,
a certificate saying, hey, I'm going to be nice to my ex. That's what that certificate basically says. I'm going to be nice to my ex. And what I found that was absolutely appalling was the Disneyland dad. It's the when I have you, you get spoiled and raise the bar up there. And then when mom can't do that because she's spending her money on
She's a bad
food,
mom.
she's a bad mom.
Right.
So that's another stereotype that ends up happening is like I say, put the accountability on the dad. Why isn't he, when the mom calls, why isn't he reinforcing that the same way a mom would be asked to reinforce his thought or his discipline? So that's why I also was running into problems, because anytime we had a discussion, my ex would expect me to do the punishing. I don't understand why I should punish my child if they didn't do anything wrong under my roof, or they do the opposite. I say no, and he gives that to them. So for a very long time, my daughter had a secret cell phone at her dad's house. And that was the only time she was allowed to use it. And because I took away all her social media, he would give it back to her during visits. Yeah. So
That's how I started smoking.
see, you ended up, it's one of the things I did try to not make happen, that there's just nothing you can do about it. Kids are going to pit their each parent against themselves to get what they want because they see an opportunity. But really, that's what I was trying to get my daughter to not do, is that whole pitting us against each other.
It wasn't even that. It was more my mom was like, do as I say, not as I do. And then she's smoking a pack of Newports in front of me.
Oh, well, that's different.
And then my dad's just like, I'm not going to sit here and smoke in front of you and not
Yes.
expect you to pick it up in front of
Yes,
me.
Exactly.
So he's like, if you want to smoke, I'd rather you do it here with me, where if something goes wrong, I can take you to the hospital
gotcha.
instead of
Yeah.
you doing it on the street corner with your friends with a cigarette with who knows what in it.
Right. And I mean, back in the day, that's what our parents said. You want some alcohol? I'll give you a tray of alcohol just so you can see what that's like. Oh, you don't feel good? Well, that's because you're a dumbass, So it's one of those things that, one of my friends, his brother was smoking a cigarette. Now, I don't agree with this because I think it promotes the addiction, but he caught his brother smoking, so he made him smoke the whole pack
My mom always
to
said,
make him throw up,
Mhm.
so that he would never do that again.
Yeah.
well, my mom was always just like, I'll make you eat the pack. And I'm just like, well, I'm already smoking it. So
Yes, exactly. But it also promotes addiction, because you just made them smoke a damn pack of
Right.
cigarettes. So detox off of that, you know? I never said we were intelligent making decisions with this situation, but you know, that really truly is where I think my friend Tasha had said something on Facebook about, you know, the Ashton
Kutcher.
not
Oh, Couture.
Couture. I never say her name right, but she pointed out, what was I going to say? She pointed out that in situations, we tend to go to the mother versus the father for things. And I think with generational curses, that's what it was. It was generational curses. Generational curses be damned, for real. I'm working on my own, trying to get, and I will tell you, if you are a generational curse breaker, it is very intensely hard to get your family to understand you're not angry. You're just done with that behavior, and you don't want to raise your kids in that toxic behavior anymore. That's all that means. You're not angry. But I will tell you, there's nothing in my life I'm angry about anymore. I've put it all aside. But it is difficult to teach your kids in this world about traditions and staying with the family and family loyalty and being about the tribe. You know, it's very, very hard for them to understand in this world. It's not out for yourself, or it shouldn't be. It should not be. It should be a tribe. It should be a circle that helps you, supports you, and takes care. I wanted for my kids this back in the day. You go over to so-and-so's house across the street, your ass is getting whooped if you mess up over there, just like if it were over at my house. You know, my kids' friends, those are my kids. You know, they're all my surrogate kids.
Right.
So I may not hit another. Let me just say that I will not hit another person's child, but I think it is important that we have that backup, because kids are wayward. They're going to try to do what they want to do. And with single parenthood, you have no backup. That's the hard part that I was finding, is there's three of them and one of me. You know what I'm saying? It's very hard for them to understand adult logic, but there's nobody else dumbing it down for them, so they understand why I'm upset. So that's also a drawback to being a single parent, is that you do have to be mom and dad.
Yeah.
You really do. Let's see where we are. Let's talk about flexible schedules. So one of the things I have found is that where I work right now is where I work for a reason, because at any given moment, my daughter would do stupid shit, and I would have to take PTO. I would have to take flex, because I couldn't manage working during the day and dealing with her forgetfulness and her things. Like, she kept leaving her trumpet at home when she'd go to school, and I would I would park in the parking lot, and I was getting ready to go in and I'd read my message. Damn it. Now I got to go all the way back home, drop it off at school, and then come back to work. So let's talk about, what have you guys had to, in your career paths that you have been in, what kind of rearranging have you had to do for your kids' schedule?
It's been so long.
You don't remember when you had to do that stuff?
I mean,
God, I want to get to that point.
Well, when my kids were in school, I went to work.
yeah.
Well, I take that back. When my kids was in school, I went to school. I
And-
started college late, and then I worked when they was at the babysitter.
So when you were at work, did you have any calls into work that, hey, I got to leave work because my kid, got their hands stuck in
those.
something, or
I had the best babysitter in the world. She knew everything with childcare. with
where
first
do
aid,
you
all
find
of
these
that.
people, guys?
kid-
I want these people
My
in my
children-
life for real.
My children have had the same babysitter from when they were born until they 13. They can't go to the babysitter. They only had one babysitter.
And see, for the first 9 years, like I said, it was my parents. when my mom got sick, one of my good girlfriends, because she had a baby, kept him for a short while. He never had to go to daycare because
it was
because of, of the
I
village.
yep.
And I've always was in a job if I had to leave or something came up, but that was kind of rare. I think my biggest challenge is when we picked up and moved to Kent for me to go back to school. And we moved there not knowing anybody, but I eventually had a village. And to this day, there's 4 of us. And 30 something years later, we're very close. 2 weeks ago, we had our annual Cake Girl weekend. But we all had children, and it was like, okay, what's your schedule? Can you keep my kid? I got this class. Can you feed my kid? Sometimes there was one car, and we all piled in it at the beginning of the month with our food stamps and those kids.
I feel that.
And go grocery shopping. But it's like, I have this class, or I need to go to the library. I got to work on this project. And to arrange our schedules like that, the 4 of us. And I am grateful for those ladies.
I would be too. That's
is
amazing.
It's like this. We got together the other week at Geneva on the Lake. One's in Ravenna. 2 of us are here. One
That
is
is
in Columbus.
amazing.
We all made it.
Good.
Through children. I got married in the mix. 2 babies were born amongst the 4. But we arranged our schedules around each other to help each other out. And I'm just a firm believer that you need a village.
You do need a village.
You need a village. And even in your career, you need a board of directors.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Get you some board of directors, because those are the things that help keep you balanced.
I think so too. I do agree. That was beautiful, Joy. Thank you very much for that. So what about you guys? I know, well, you guys keep the same schedule I do. What about, let's talk about Ebony. She's got a crazy ass comedian schedule. How did you get into that before your kids were grown, or?
My kids were 13 and 15 when I started doing comedy.
And how did that kind of affect, because I know with the late nights and stuff, you might have passed in the night kind of thing.
Well, my son, he taught himself how to play guitar when he was 5. So he was gigging, doing his own little gigs at the time.
Shut up.
He was doing his own little thing. And my daughter, she just was doing, it's always that second child, especially if it's a girl.
Yes.
Them the motherfuckers right there.
Yes.
And she a Gemini.
Oh,
So it
shit.
was like, she was running away, knowing she's supposed to be in the house. Or I come home, I have a house full of people that ain't supposed to be there. Listen, people knew how to get in my house when I wasn't home.
My
That's what
God.
was going on.
Oh my goodness.
I've been doing comedy 10 years. My kid's never been in my shows.
Really?
But my son, a goddamn musician, I go to that nigga shows.
See, that's exactly what I was telling the kids the last summit I had. I said, do you even know I've been doing this for a year? Like, do you even know that? You never show up. You never promote me.
We're not on the radar.
No. I said, do you know what my passions are? Like, you're sitting here wanting me to give a shit about yours, but you know, when I'm talking business on the phone and stuff and trying to do me, y'all are running up in my room wanting shit, you know? So if you wanted to, if you're going to make it always, right? I'm sorry. I was one of those kids too. I was. My mom, I could talk for hours. So same as my mom. And after church, dear God, that woman would not shut up. And I was one of those kids, just kind of like doing the circle around the adult group, just like, could we just go home now?
Like, come on.
So yeah, I do agree, but you're absolutely right. It's like, you want me to show up for you.
Well, I do it because like I'm that's my thing. I put everybody else before me.
I know.
And I'm always making sure
Because you're a Taurus.
he got his stuff. Yeah. and I'm guilty of that because it's like, say for instance, I got $50 left from paying my bills after my check. I won't spend that $50 on
Nope.
me. So just
Nope.
suppose you might be like, oh, you know what? I need a couple dollars for gas. If I don't have the money, I feel bad because I can't. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I'd be like, oh my, that is.
I
me.
do that. I do that too. I will tell you.
Yeah.
My daughter asked me to, and she does this all the time. She will pre-ask me for money. I'll spend it, and then she'll go, well, I don't have enough this pay period. And I'm like, God, why do you keep suckering me into shit? I had not planned on spending that money. Okay. That money was supposed to get us through, and I still spent that money.
Yes.
So I completely agree with you on that
Yes.
one. So coming back to you guys, we as a company work from home right now. So I imagine life's not quite the scheduling nightmare that it used to be. But imagine we're still in the building.
I am in the building.
Oh, well, you are in the building.
Yeah.
She's at the other
She
location.
goes into the building.
But she gets fun stories, though, too, at work.
Mhm.
I don't get fun stories at work at all. It's not ever fun being me. But what do you guys do with your schedule as far as like the kids and while you're working, or what about like plans that you make? Do you go through with them if something happens with the kids, or do you cancel on your plans to take care of the kids?
So for me personally, like I send my kids to a babysitter because there's no way I could work at home with both of them there. It's just not happening. So people will be like, why aren't your kids home? I'm like, do you know I wouldn't even be able to get work done? So I send them to a babysitter, and then like my husband will drop them off and pick them up, and then like I'll try to have dinner home by the time he gets back. But sometimes it gets chaotic because he gets off work late,
Right.
or just he's a nurse, so his schedule, you know, sometimes he's off on time, other times he's an hour or so late. So sometimes I might
that's
have to
hard
go,
to plan.
Yeah, so sometimes I might have to hurry up and go pick up the kids when I wasn't planning on doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that can throw a wrench in the schedule.
Yeah, I feel that. When I was married, one of the things that was hard for us is we had to work opposite shifts to make it work. And that is so hard to do as well. I mean, we were parents right off the bat after getting married. So that's really hard to do, but we did it. And I will tell you, those moments, you're sitting here yelling at him because he took a nap during the day.
Yes.
And I will tell you, I came home from work one time and there were little white, because my daughter had white blonde hair when she was born. There were white tufts of hair to the living room and then down the stairs. And yes, my 10-month-old was running around with a pair of scissors, giving herself a haircut. And he was asleep on the couch. So that was really difficult for me is, you know, I'm sitting here giving 110% at night. I'm doing baths, I'm doing dinner, I'm doing homework, I'm doing it all.
Mhm.
You couldn't watch the baby. Like you couldn't watch the damn baby. Like this is a concept I can't understand. So that's one of the things that I struggle with too, is getting women to let go of that expectation. Just because you do doesn't mean they're going to do.
Right.
They're accountable for what they do, but they're not accountable to you for what they do. So they're accountable to that kid. You let that kid run around with a pair of scissors. She could have stabbed her eye out. That's on you.
Right.
That's on you. That's bad parenting. You know, so it's one of those things where as my kids got older, I took less and less responsibility for how they turned out. Because I think at some point that transition goes to, no, that's on you. You were stupid. You made that decision. Now you got the consequences. And I think that's really, really hard for our second children to understand that I'm not going to cover you for the rest of your life. That's not a thing. Like, I don't know where you got the idea that mommy's going to take care of you forever. No, mommy has been mommy for 20 years. Mommy's ready to be a person, you know? So it's really interesting to, like we were talking about, starting that at a certain age where it's on you to make those decisions. At some point, I have to let go, like what you were saying earlier. I have to let go of what I did to you as a kid. And at some point, you've got to float with your decisions, because I didn't screw you up that bad that you need to go do the things that you choose to do. That's out of want. That's
Yeah.
not, has nothing to do with how I raised you. Because I can tell you, I raised my kids the same way I was raised, and I was raised in a military home. So I look at it like you're responsible for what you're responsible for. And I don't micromanage my kid. I lose my shit.
Yeah.
There's that expectation of it's yours and I'm not doing it. So that's on you to make sure it gets done. And that's kind of where I'm at with my kids. Now I know you two have babies, so that's not that's not exactly a conversation you want to have with your son per se, because you got that toy out. That's on you because you fell on your face, that's not really a thing.
I mean, he does learn the lesson hard, though.
Yeah.
He's doing something and I tell him to stop and he doesn't stop. I'm like, okay. Then he hurts himself. Then he comes over and he tells me that he hurts himself. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Oh, good. Well, that's good.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's good, because that is something that I don't think kids get enough of today, is that accountability. We, as a generation, Gen X is horrible with apologizing for life. And I feel like we do that to our kids. We overcompensate because we didn't get enough, so they get more than we got.
Right.
So in doing that, we do more damage, because now we've raised the bar of the level of expectation. And nothing was more apparent than when I lost my vehicle, because the fact that that was a very good life lesson for my daughter. Look, it does not matter that it got taken on a Friday. It doesn't matter that I have to wait till Monday to get it. The facts of life are, I wouldn't have to wait for my car at all if I'd made my payment.
Right.
So this is how I took that life lesson and I turned it around to say, that cell phone bill you pay every month. Well, that's your choice to pay $100 and some odd for your cell phone bill. I gave you an alternative until you can get on your feet and make money.
Right.
There's burner phones. There's
Right.
$35 a month. I have a burner phone because I choose to not have all the fancy bells and whistles. I just need a phone to talk to my people, is really all that is. So that's something that we also talked about, just like with the car. She was like, well, how am I supposed to get to, move? How am I supposed to get to work? I said, the bus.
It's called public transportation.
That's what it stands for.
Get a bus pass, sis. Get a bus pass.
Who needs a car these days when we got Uber? Come
When they
on
came to my
now.
house and repo my car, the bus was right there. in the corner.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying, is these are the things that's what I wanted to teach her, is even on your level, you got to stop thinking that you've got it made. We were told at 16, I'm done with you. I'm no longer financially supporting you. If we wanted something, we had to do something about it, not our parents. That's the one thing that I try to instill in my kids, as much as they, my son gets it, but he's 24, whereas my daughter is not quite getting that whole concept of, it ain't mine no more. It's yours. You want a special brand of shampoo? That's you. You want some makeup? That's on you.
Right.
I even make her buy her own pads, because I'm sorry, I've run out one too many times because you used up my pads, So I'm just saying.
Those personal care items.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And that's part of the transition, is I buy for the house. So, and that was the other reason why I don't let others live with me, is because I treat my house as a safe haven for everyone.
Mhm.
And if I have no rooms available at the inn, how can I help people?
Right.
So that's another reason why I don't have extra rooms in my house. I have extra rooms, but I don't have extra rooms in
Right.
my house, is because they're there for the people, as I say, the friends I haven't met yet. When my daughters, and I take the kids all the time, somebody else's kids. I even had one of Elizabeth's friends staying with me because things were too intense at home and she was failing school. So she couldn't even focus on graduating high school because things were so intense at home. So these are the life choices that we make as parents, you know. And I will tell you, I am done rescuing children. I love making possibilities available for children. It's just like with rescue pets, I don't need to own one to help children, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson that I learned with this one is I know she came into my life at a point where I was making decisions on my path where I was going and stuff. And I fought it. I fought it tooth and nail because damn it, my daughter's 18. It's about just time. It's not about taking care of more kids, you know. And that's something too that I think we do as moms is we never get out of that. Like that's never a thing that we do where you stop being a mom or you stop thinking like a mom or anything like that. I think Ashley said it best, you know, raising grown men, you know, at this point, and when they get to be older, that's what you're dealing with is you feel like they didn't get what they needed. And now you got to be that person because they annoy the shit out of you if you don't.
Well, my son moved out when he was 20. It was he was like, I'm moving out. Probably because they said, because I got rules in my house. Yes, if you eating and you go in the kitchen, put in the sink, you can wash and put in the drain.
There you go.
And I'm always like, I have OCD to a point. Pick that up. You pick that up, please.
Do you not see that on the floor?
Over, get that sock up. I get it in your
Do you not see that in the floor?
My anxiety just you know what I'm saying. But he moved out when he was 20, and he never came back. One time, he never asked me to help pay bills.
That's amazing.
He never lets me know, like, if he behind a bill, he'll get his stuff done. And so I commend him for that because his dad wasn't in his life.
Right.
But my daughter, her dad was in her life. And see, that would cause a rift between my kids.
Yeah.
Because I was the only parent that they had.
Right.
So when she lost her dad at 6. That's when things changed for her. Like you said, like those kids think like you got to give your kids stuff because they didn't have.
Right.
And my kids, that's when they started putting me against each other for them.
Yes.
Like my son think I favor my daughter, and my daughter.
Oh my God. Are you me? Because really that's what it's like is they think that the other person's the favorite and it's not.
It's not that. She had a dad and he didn't. So whatever money your dad getting from you, I have to make stuff happen for my son because it's just me and because he doesn't have a dad. So I got to make up and put bills behind because I'm trying to make it equal. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's kind of and that's another good point about that is, you know, us as moms overcompensating for what they're lacking.
Yeah.
I think that is just as bad as undercompensating because of the fact that it gives them false reality. And the false reality is that, yes, I always tell one of the first things my daughter said when I bought the house was, oh, we live in fancy now. I said, there is nothing fancy about our house. Trust and believe there is nothing fancy about our house. It was just the living situation is different.
Right.
And I think she's grown so accustomed to suburban life, she forgets life is hard.
Everywhere, yeah.
You've been in this protective bubble for 8 years. You know, you have had mom to rely on and bail you out of shit. And mom's saying, I got trips to Italy. I got to be taken. I can't afford you no more. You know?
Oh my.
I do tell my daughter that quite a bit when Cash is a little shy. I'm telling her, you know, I can't afford you this week. I can't afford you. And I rule the day that a man can afford my daughter because she just knows what she wants.
It's some girls, I'm telling you.
It's the second child. She knows what she wants. She's strong-headed and she don't take no for an answer. It's like literally pulling teeth. And then finally I get to the point where I get frustrated and I'm like, well, here, let me show you, you know, like you need proof for this kind of thing. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It's the second child. It's that second child.
Man.
Ashley, don't have any more children.
You can't just pray for a boy. Don't get a girl.
Yeah, don't get a
I'm
girl.
telling you, man.
Stick with the boys.
And because the boys, I'm telling you, I found it easier.
I did too.
You know, I
My
think
boy is wild.
the boys were.
He's a baby.
But
He is a baby. He's still growing. He's still got a lot to learn, a lot of life to live.
Yeah,
but you do know that when he get older, you are his woman. Just know
yes,
that. You forgot you gonna be his woman. Man,
yeah, you don't
till you get-
understand. That's they raised the bar.
Man.
Boys raise the bar.
He gonna be
Boys
like,
really
where
do
you
raise
wearing
the
that
bar.
to? Where you going? I'm telling you, you laughing now, it's gonna happen. I'm telling you.
telling you.
That's your man.
My son will, anytime he goes to get something to eat, he's like, Mom, you want something to eat? I'm making something. Anytime he's like, Mom, I'm going to the store, you want something? Can you think that I get that from my daughter? She'd be like,
Your son.
oh,
he gonna
by the
take
way,
care of you.
by the
Watch.
way, I went to the store. Oh, you did? Thank you for telling me after the fact. So,
boys are different.
well, and
Yeah.
and boys really truly, I will say, their teenage years, the only frustration is getting them to do shit because they like to just do nothing. And I
And their
used to make a.
rooms stink.
They do.
Right.
What is that smell?
Stop with that.
What is that smell?
Yeah, what's the smell?
Yeah, but seriously, what is that
Ask me, what is the smell?
I don't understand.
Gym socks and regret.
That locker room smell is like, it's only you. It's just one more. How you smell like the whole locker room? I don't get that.
And don't you smell that? Like it doesn't
like, you
bother
know-
you?
It's called Ode to Teen.
I'll
Man,
go take a shower.
man.
So this is what I have
That
to look
too.
forward to.
Yes.
Get
No.
over.
Yes.
No.
Great.
buy stock in Febreze. I'm just going to point that out because it's
Fair.
the only thing that's going to give you peace of mind with where the smell is coming from.
Especially with two boys.
You know,
so-
there's a reason why they put "do not enter" on their door.
Yeah,
You
for-
don't
yeah.
want to enter at all.
Febreze, scented candles, and incense.
That's why.
Okay, good to
That's
know.
why. That's why.
Wildflowers from
Back in the
Bath
day,
and
all
Body
all our men back in the day smelled like vanilla. It's because it was in their car, it was in their
Yeah.
room. That's why. It's because it's the only thing that combats that smell.
And
I'm just
there-
saying.
There is no cologne on the planet that can get rid of teenage boy smell. Trust
No,
me.
no,
Okay,
it
yeah,
smells
alright.
like forest ass. It
Yeah,
does.
Yeah, because your
You're
kids.
just standing in the middle of the trees,
It's like, how
and
do
it
you-
smells like
Yeah,
ass.
where
I don't.
did it come from? You know what I'm saying? It's your kids, then you have clean kids.
In,
But
in
that-
defense,
it's like when they must turn a certain age, and that smell like, here we go.
And they are clean. They do clean themselves.
I'm
It's
not
not
ready
that they
for
don't.
this.
They
My
don't
child
clean
takes a shower
themselves.
every single day.
right. But in
It's
defense of
like-
all teenage boys everywhere, the locker rooms in high schools are like toxic waste dumps.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
So-
their room smell.
That's what it is.
So we do not want to shower because we don't want to get ringworm.
Well, I thought it was because you didn't want to get raped in the shower.
Well, I mean,
men have that fear with public.
I have no idea. It's been 20 years
I-
since I've been in high school.
I'm
Like,
just saying, I think that fear of public showers starts in high school because
Yeah.
by the time they get grown, you hear a man talk about public showers, they're no.
I won't even take a shit at work because I won't use public bathrooms.
Well,
You know, I feel like that's classic adulting, man. you hit an age where it's like, no,
no,
I'm
no.
not gonna do that.
I will tell you though, it is a delight to be paid to shit. I'm just saying. I'm
Fair.
just saying. The only thing is, we do have a couple people at work that it's like routine. Where's so and so? Oh, it's 3 o'clock.
Every job.
Every day, you see Bill going into the bathroom with that newspaper under his arm. You know what's happening there. Well, ladies, guess what? We are at the end of our time.
Oh,
Isn't that
wow.
crazy?
That was sad.
I know. This is why we need to, I've been trying to push to do these monthly now because of the fact that I love them so much and I love spending time with my ladies so much. And we always have such a good time. But I do want to give you ladies a time because just to promote yourself, what if you have anything coming up, if anybody wants to reach out to you too because they enjoyed your stories, where can they find you, Joy?
I can be found on Facebook and Instagram, but in Instagram, I'm under Joyful Event Design. I didn't share with you, ladies. In addition to my social worker job, I have my own business.
Good for
Joyful Event Design.
you.
I do event decor.
Now, what is that?
People have events. They have their vision. I go into created this Tuesday, I am doing the YWCA's Women of Achievement Awards at Severance
That's
Center.
amazing.
I'm setting up the stage at Severance Hall for their event. I have the NAACP, 2 events coming up this summer. I have weddings, and I hate weddings.
I hate weddings. I will say
weddings are the worst, but I have 2 weddings. But I'm looking forward to doing them
the
because
reception. I always
haven't.
skip the ceremony. The
Yeah.
reception's so much better.
Yeah. But I find joy. It gives me peace.
Good.
To create, to come up with designs. for
And
the
well, and that's
different events.
quite the flex too. Let's be honest. That's quite the flex to be able to design
Yeah.
something that big.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I like to
awesome.
entertain. So
Okay. All right. So how about you, Lisa? Where can they find you?
On Facebook or Instagram, I have nothing like that going on. So I'm pretty boring.
Aren't we all? No, your life is full up with kids.
That's what I was
There's
gonna say.
nothing
Your life-
boring.
No.
There's nothing boring about your
Trying
life.
to keep 2 teenage boys alive.
Oh, yes. Just make sure you have your Sam's Club membership. Just saying. Yeah.
All they do is eat.
All they do
I
is
know.
eat. I think I spend $100 more for when my son was a teenager than I do
Your
now.
kids cook for themselves.
I taught my sons to cook, yes.
good.
Because listen, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I
I
do
don't
too.
want them to be impressed when a woman makes them some boxed mac and cheese.
Right.
I said the same thing to my daughter. I said, you know why you do the dishes? You know why you do laundry?
Mhm.
So that, and you know why I make you pay for everything? So that no man can just swoop you off your feet and he's the greatest thing and then leave you
Yep.
with nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Be able to stand up on your own 2 feet where you don't need them, you want them. And that's really, really
That's
awesome
my
to do.
philosophy. I don't need you.
I don't need you, but
Right.
I want you.
Right.
That's how it works. How about you, Caitlin?
You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. My Instagram is going to be Kate Turner with a C and
Okay.
89.
Okay. No, is that the year you were born?
Yes.
Okay. How about you, Ashley?
You can find me on social media at Yep I'm Rosabelle, ROSABELLE, and that's on all social media.
That's how it is across all of your stuff. Gotcha. Okay. All right. How about you,
That
Ebony?
Roosevelt.
Facebook is just Ebony Gordon, and on Instagram it's iHolla, EYE_HOLLA.
I
All
got you.
right.
And I am the lamest of us all because the only thing I have is Facebook.
Okay.
No, I do it for a reason. As working in compliance, I deal with a lot of security breachy stuff and privacy stuff. And one of my projects a few years ago, I had to do what we call HIPS Week. It's a health. I don't even remember the acronym. It's for health, privacy, and security.
HIPAA.
Well, I know what HIPAA is, but I don't know what the acronym is for HIPS. It's
Oh,
a different acronym, but during that, I discovered my all kinds of stuff about my digital fingerprint, and I learned a lot about at a professional level what I want my digital fingerprint to look like. So I don't have a lot of social media presence because of that. And the idea of having to do that for the Women's Summit does terrify me a little bit, but I'm willing to do that because the fact that I truly, truly believe in what we do, what this is about. I truly, truly believe in getting our voices out there, because I will tell you, one of the reasons I started this in the first place is because I was doing stuff isolated. And I didn't realize I had a plethora of a village of women that have been doing single individual lifestyles for years and have managed without stumbling. So once I realized that I could reach out to my girlfriends and be like, hey, I don't even know how to change a pipe or a sink. What tool do I use to rip up carpet, kind of thing. And that's actually how it started was just reaching out, because I was tired of reaching out to my men friends and then be like, I I don't know. You know, go here, Google it.
Right.
Google
Google
it.
I'm telling you, they get you. Yeah,
Why aren't you using YouTube? I use YouTube for everything because YouTube won't take me to what the do's and don'ts of what you experienced. Because usually when you learn something about your house or a trade or something like that, you had to go through some shit to learn it.
Right.
A YouTube video is not going to be that accurate with don't do this or do this, but if it does this, don't do this, you know. That's what I need. So that's actually how this all started. So I do want to have more of a social media presence for the Women's Summit, but it's a slow, like I just started doing the idea of monthly. Like I want to eventually grow it bigger than that, but this is just a slow process. So that's why I'm not really on social media. But you can reach me on Facebook. I do answer messages because I have no life, so I don't really get stalked by anybody.
My joy is seeing my granddaughter.
I'm just saying, I'm just too grown to play these games anymore. If you want me, you want me. You don't kind of thing. So I just don't give in to all of that.
That's a whole other conversation.
Right? And that could be next summit. I'm just saying.
Like same people back. We all
Right? We just gotta part two. So to close it out, I do want to say our next summit is to be determined. I am working with Redline Radio to get a June summit out because of the fact that, again, I love doing these. I live for these. But I do want to do a shout out because this weekend has been a whirlwind of birthdays. And I don't know how I gravitate towards so many people in the month of May, but I would appreciate it if y'all could just spread yourselves out a little bit more, you know?
Well, I'm April.
Well, yours is like what, the day before mine, I think.
28th,
Yeah,
yep.
mine's the 29th.
29th.
So I do want to get a shout out to Lex Vegas. He turned 43 yesterday. He had a big old party for it too. From what I hear, but his birthday was yesterday. And I have a friend of mine, Eliza Jez. Her birthday is today. And I also want to shout out to Adam Pepe. He is my best friend and his birthday is today. And I also want to shout out to my adopted daughter, Carly, because her birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday, guys, everybody. Hopefully it's a year wiser. And may you have an joyous and amazing next year. And finally, I will close out with our summit with our phenomenal woman of the month. This month, because we were talking about our kids, I wanted to promote Michelle Obama. She is amazing. The fact that she did not get a whole lot of credit while her husband was in the presidency. She had a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old running around the White House. How much, the fact that her hair did not turn white. I mean, imagine Secret Service be the one that calls you and tells you, oh my God, your daughter got into what now? And you have to discipline your kid in the White House. I mean, and you're doing it in full view of the public, you know, so you don't get to take that switch, you know, and punish them properly. You gotta, yeah, exactly. Just once, I wanted her to just yank one of them. just once. Just one time. I want to see you yank your daughter just once, because that would show the frustration of being a mom. You know, you're acting up. Just stop acting up on camera. What's wrong with you?
Right.
You know, kind of thing. But I do want to shout out to her. She actually, one of the things I found out is she continued her passion for kids getting nutritional health after his term was done. And I just read this article just this year. She's a co-founder now for a foundation called, or healthy living called Pluzzy Nutrition. Now, I was supposed to find some of the Pluzzy Nutrition at Target because that's what the website said, but there was none to be found because I did want us to try it and see, because it's supposed to be all the nutrition that a child needs for the day in one bottle. That's the whole allure of it, is that it's nutritional for children and it helps them with poverty and stuff. Sometimes you can't give your kids the right amount of nutrition. And I thought this was an amazing way to kind of send off, is just promoting a woman that she was in the public eye for years and never got the shine. Like she got criticized way more for being a female, a Black female for that, than she got for praise for being a loving mother. So I think it is important that we put out in the universe that Michelle Obama is pretty awesome. I think that's awesome. So with that, I'm going to say, Lee, take us out.
I have nothing to take you out to.
Okay, well, take us out with something you got. do a little hula or something, for the camera.
The only thing that just went through my
I'm
mind was
good.
the intro of Aquitaine Hunger Force.
You do know I know that word to word, right?
That's hilarious.
That's perfect.
Caitlin, I think your husband or somebody tried commenting and I accidentally deleted it by accident. He said Caitlin was hot. So
Oh,
That's really
nice.
nice of him.
That Caitlin mom is high.
She's
that's exactly what it said. That's actually exactly what it said. I went to put it on the screen. I hit delete by accident.
Yeah,
Well, it is in the comments, but it's not. It didn't flash on the screen.
He did
Right.
say he was gonna say something like that. I was like, please don't embarrass me.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
But you know
said
what?
it.
He can embarrass you
There's
anytime
nothing
if
to
he's
be
going to call you
embarrassed
hot.
about.
I'll tell you what.
Fair
I'll tell you what.
Nothing to be embarrassed about.
Absolutely not. I find, one of the things that I found was that it was amazing when somebody does that, just like for no reason.
Yeah.
You're hot.
He's
You're hot.
nice. He's nice sometimes.
Yeah, I do want to say that it's probably one of the hardest things on the planet to be a single mom. My mom had to do it, and I was 10 years old when my parents got divorced. And if I didn't have to step up and become the big older brother to my brother and sister, I don't think that I would have been half the adult that I am right now.
I agree. And I got to give credit to the single moms that pretty much gave up their dreams for their kids and are working 2-3 jobs to make it so that their kids can live their dream. I gotta applaud those people, because I tell you what, that's huge. Especially being the fact that I'm in a selfish phase right now and I just want to do me. I don't want to take care of kids no more.
And that's okay.
Right. I don't want to take care of kids no more.
You gotta do something to take care of you.
Yeah,
But I do applaud the women that do give that up, because they see potential in their child and they want to see it grow and be something. And the only way they know how is to bust their ass for their kids. I don't think enough is said about those moms. We hear about it. My mom worked 3 jobs and I had to take care of my household. But nobody said anything to her about what an amazing woman she was for making that sacrifice.
Mhm.
Yes, we find respect for that, but publicly, when you see a mom, I will tell you, when I see a mom in a grocery store and you see she's going through it with the kids, and you just stop off and be like, I know what you mean, and you keep walking, that at least gives her hope
Right.
that you as that's just a bad day. Yes, that's just a bad day.
I think I got a song here. Oh, sorry. I think I got a song here by the same person that you sent us for the opener,
Okay,
It's
Medea's a good artist,
It's called-
anyways.
called "You Keep Hope Alive."
Sounds good.
All
Play it.
right.
All right.
Pieces.
That's my